Hey everyone, it's Baka here. Welcome back to another Friday workshop where we learn about all things in the creative aspects of life. I apologize for this video going up on Saturday instead of Friday. I have been just a wee bit exhausted. Started the new year of teaching on Thursday, and the first few days kind of take it out of you, especially when you have middle schoolers. But we're going to go ahead and get on with this week's workshop. This week we're going to be looking at multi-point perspective, and specifically we're going to be looking at this in an exterior space. Now last week we looked at two-point perspective. We looked at how that could be done in a basic cityscape. The week before we looked at one-point perspective, both in simple objects and with an interior space. But when it comes to multi-point perspective, all you really have to know is that you are combining elements of one-point perspective and two-point perspective. You can almost turn your drawing into kind of a grid system. So I'm going to go ahead and get right onto the multi-point perspective cityscape. And I've already drawn a horizon line. It's a little more than a third of the way up the paper. And what I want to do for here, since I'm creating this right off the top of my head and not looking at an actual scene, I'm going to go ahead and create my 3 vanishing points. And I'm sticking with 3 today because I don't want to get it too overcomplicated. And 3 is multi, 3 is not 2, 3 is not 1. But it's not going to get too cluttered. So right here I've popped on my 3 vanishing points. Now I did this the easy way and made them an equal distance apart. You've got a center vanishing point, a right, and a left. Now when I say you break this into grids, maybe I should have said quadrants. And you honestly can break it right down the middle. You've got your left quadrant from your left vanishing point to the middle, and your right from the right to the middle. Yeah, that's right. And just like in the two-point perspective cityscape, the easiest way to start this is to put in your roads. Now, as with the two-point perspective, those roads are actually a bit of one-point perspective. They are, in reality, perspective lines that go to one of these vanishing points. Now, with multi-point perspective, we're going to be looking at 3 different roads. So I've popped these on here, and you can think of it like this. If you're looking back in space, the roads seem to get smaller the further away from you get. So in this case, these are actually, even though they're kind of these triangular shapes, these are 3 parallel roads. If this were a gridded city, they would all follow along the same line. Now, just as in two-point perspective, we are looking at this at angles. But with multi-point perspective, we kind of have different angles. Our view is basically starting from right here. Now, if I had a building that was square right here in the middle, it would end up being one-point perspective. But I'm going to have buildings to the right and to the left of this middle vanishing point. So I'm going to go ahead and start with one line. And this is going to be the center line of our first building. Now, we know that with all buildings like this, you have to go to a vanishing point. Now, this is in the right quadrant. And what this means is that we are looking at two-point perspective for all of the buildings in this right quadrant. They are all going to be leading between the right vanishing point and the center vanishing point. So to find the left side of this building, I'll go from the center vanishing point to the top of the building. And I really don't need to do anything for the bottom because it falls along this street. Now I'm going to go ahead and make the vertical side of this of the left side of this building, and I just carry it from that from one perspective line to the other perspective line. Get this nice and straight. That was supposed to be black. Let's fix this. There we go. And we do the same thing at the top, from the top of the middle line to the top of the left line, and from the bottom of the middle line to the bottom of the left line. We now have our left side of this building. Now for the, I guess I need to do this. For the right side, we're going to go from the right vanishing point to the top of that middle line, and from the right vanishing point to the bottom of that middle line. Those two perspective lines will create our tops and our bottoms of that building. Now we just need to go ahead and create the rightmost line of this building, and we can create our tops and our bottoms. That was the right side was a vertical line from one perspective line to the other, and the top and the bottom just go from the middle line to the right line along those vanishing points. Now I can make these vanishing, or those perspective lines, disappear. Let's do a little erasing of, where is this? A little erasing of this horizon line so it doesn't actually go right through our building. And we have the basic construction of a skyscraper. It's two-point perspective just like before, but it's in the right quadrant. Now on the left quadrant, we are going to do the same exact thing. We're going to need, I'll have that on there for now. We're going to need to have a perspective line from the middle to the top of this line, which is our center line. It should be red though. There we go. And we don't need to do anything for the bottom because the street is our perspective line. And while I've got it here, I'll go for the left side of the building, which goes from the left vanishing point to the top of this line, and from the left vanishing point to the bottom of that line. And then we really just need to create the right side and the left side, which is a vertical line from one perspective line to the other on the right side, and another vertical line from the top perspective line to the bottom perspective line on the left side. And then we just connect along those perspective lines on the top and the bottom, and we get a second building. And I really want to finish this up quickly. Okay. So making those invisible, and let's go back down and do some erasing. We can erase the horizon line within this building. So what you now have is you kind of have this feel like you're looking down an alleyway. Because you're so close to this vanishing point, these lines are going to be fairly extreme, these angles. But the more buildings you place there, the more normal it will appear. Now, if you want buildings further from the center line, that's not a problem at all. Here we've got one, and I've put it down below that line. Now I'm going to do this one the same way I just did the last building, so that it is in that basic two-point perspective in the left quadrant. So the left side goes to the left vanishing point, the right side goes to this middle vanishing point. There we go. And now we will create some vertical lines for the outsides of our building. We connect these along those perspective lines, and we get the front two sides of this building. We do not have the roof yet. Now, just like we did with 2-point perspective for buildings that are under the horizon line, you have to remember to think in opposites. This back left side of the building is parallel to the front right side, and the back right side of the building is parallel to the front right side. So for the back side, it goes to this middle vanishing point, and for this right side, it goes to this left vanishing point. And then you just go ahead and connect these lines together. You see where they intersect. And now if I turn off all these crazy perspective lines, one more, we have, there, I don't like that. Okay. Then we have another building that is in 2-point perspective. You notice I drew this one off the road, but it still visually runs parallel with this road. It is also running parallel with this building. They're lined up. They don't look like it right off the bat, but they are. This is just a simple rule of how visuals work. And the further out you get, the more it would seem like these buildings are turning. They aren't actually. Now the last building I want to draw on here is going to be a building at an angle. It's not going to be lined up parallel with the rest of these buildings. It's not going to go from the left vanishing point to the right vanishing point, or to the middle vanishing. Wow, I can't talk today. It's not going to go from the right vanishing point to the middle vanishing point. In fact, the way I have it set up, I'm going to actually move this line. That's not the line I want. That is. So I don't want it actually up against the road there. What this is going to do, let's just create, I don't care. That's fine. We are going to have a building that's turned at an angle. It's going to go from the right vanishing point to the left vanishing point. The reason I'm doing this is I want you to see how different this looks than all of these other buildings that are following this quadrant system. So if you decide to have a building that is turned at an angle, you're going to know why it looks the way it looks. So for this, we're going to go from the right and from the left to the center. So I'm going to quickly create these perspective lines from the right vanishing point to the center and from the left vanishing point to the center. You'll notice because these lines get to be so long that the angle is much less steep. So I will create the right side, or I'll do the right side first. I'll create the right side of the building. Come on. And I'll create the left side of the building, even though I've got a crooked right side, which is going to bug me. And then it falls on either side of the horizon line, so there's no roof to draw. So we'll create the bottoms, which fall along these perspective lines. Whoa, I don't know what just happened there. Sorry. Got a twitchy trigger finger. There. Finish the bottom. Finish the top. And we will make these perspective lines invisible and make that touch something else. So I'm going to go ahead and erase this horizon line here. And honestly, when you make these buildings, if you erase the horizon line before you start getting into all your detail work, it will help you be less confused. So we've got this, and it obviously falls along this road here because it goes to this vanishing point. But it does not fall in a 90-degree angle. This would make it a 90-degree building. This does not make it a 90-degree building. If all of these skyscrapers are boxes and they fall in their quadrants, well, no, let me rephrase it. It does make it a 90-degree building, but it does not make it in the same direction. If this line here were like that, and this line here were like that, that would be following in the same direction. That would be, say, the next block over. But it's not. It's turned slightly at an angle. It's confusing. That's why I recommend this quadrant approach. And let me think here. I'm just wondering what happens if you put in another road. If you put a cross street in. Because remember, we're looking at the center one, so a crosswalk would go like this. I'm not sure on that. I'll get back to you on that part. Let's Control Z that. Anyway, there you have multi-point perspective. Minus these two lines. These three buildings fall in quadrants. They are all parallel to each other. This line does not fall in this quadrant. It falls in the quadrant that is the whole paper, going from right to left. It's not parallel. It's still correct, but it's correct if at a slight angle. So, there you have multi-point perspective. We've now looked at single-point perspective. We've looked at two-point perspective in an exterior space, and we've looked at multi-point perspective in an exterior space. Next week, we're going to wrap up perspective drawing. We're going to look at two-point perspective in a real interior space. It will not be a long lesson. Mostly I'm going to show you the deal with finding the vanishing points in there. Just like we did when finding the vanishing point in an interior space before. This is just going to be slightly more complicated because a lot of things are backwards. So, Tuesday will hopefully be a wide world of geek, but I really can't guarantee that because I start working my second job Monday and Tuesday night. If there is a wide world of geek, it's going to be very late because I don't want to try filming it on Sunday when I could miss out on any news that's on Monday and Tuesday. But I will try to get it up, and then next Friday we finish up perspective drawing. Until Tuesday, I'll see you guys later.